Cruisin' on 7, brought to you by Auto Gallery Subaru, located at 609 Winnipeg Street, has an excellent selection of premium pre-owned vehicles for every budget, featuring Subaru's legendary and award-winning all-wheel drive. Auto Gallery Subaru will make your experience one to remember.
Hi, welcome to the Sask Ford Mercury Club Car Show today. Fantastic, good afternoon. And I guess we're going to start with the first car of many this afternoon. It's a 1971 Boss 351, and I know the owner. In fact, I know the owner really well because the owner is me. It's one of 1,806, made for the 1971 model year only. It's original of 55,000 miles, sold actually new here in Saskatchewan, and it was kind of unique. Ford had built a Boss 302, they'd built a Boss 429, and in 71 they only made one Boss, and it was a Boss 351. Color is grabber yellow, the interior is black of course, and it was a 351 Cleveland special engine, Magnum 500 wheels, original style polyglass tires, 4 speeds, which only Boss cars were available with 4 speeds, no automatics, and no power dragging options. So in other words, no air conditioning, that kind of thing that would slow you down. The idea was it was made to be a fast sort of a street car / race car, and real unique. It's been something that I've enjoyed. Had it for 16 years, and hopefully I've got it for quite a bit longer afterwards. We're here today with Matt, and Matt's got a 2017, is that correct, Mustang?
Yep, correct.
Matt, tell us a little bit about your car.
Well, it's a EcoBoost turbo, so it's the 2.3 4-cylinder turbo, and I've got a lot done to it. I put a Vargas Stage 2 turbo on it. It's fully bolted on, so it has a full exhaust system, intake, obviously the bigger turbo, blow-off valve, bigger intercooler. It's also tuned. I have it tuned from Tune Plus down in Dallas, and I put the bigger wheels on it so I could get some traction for it. So it's a lot of fun to drive right now.
Any idea what the horsepower from factory to now, what the difference is?
Yeah, the factory, we're talking wheel horsepower on this car would be 240 at the wheels. Right now with everything that I've done to it, it would be about 380 to 400 at the wheels. So.
Wow. Any idea what it would do at the track if you were to put on a quarter mile?
I would hope, just by what other people have done, I haven't done it yet. I'm assuming high 11s, low 12s is what it'll probably run right now at the track. So, just
amazing, out of a 4-cylinder car. Yeah. And how big are the wheels?
They're 20-inch wheels. I'm running 10 inches at the back and 9 inches in the front for width. So, made it. I needed it once I put all the power to it because it makes big torque. It should be making around 500 foot-pounds of torque. So the original 9-inch all 4 corners just wasn't enough. So with the 10 inches, it's made a huge difference.
Anything in the interior at all?
Nothing on the interior. I custom ordered it with the Recaro race seats in it, so I actually custom ordered this car back in 2016. It's just a base model performance pack. So the performance pack from Ford gives you the bigger rad, bigger brakes. You get the 355 rear end, and then I added the Recaro seats to the order as well, just to spice it up a little bit. Otherwise, interior is pretty much stock. So.
And that's a great color. It's grabber blue, correct?
Yeah, grabber blue, yeah. That's why I got it. 17 was the first year they brought it back for this body style, and I thought it looked fantastic. So.
Yeah, I have a grabber blue 70, and I absolutely just love this color. It's my favorite of any of the Mustang colors. So from a perspective of ride and handling, has it changed much?
Yeah, like once I tuned it and put the big turbo on it, it's amazing how light the car feels now. These cars from the factory are really bad for having mid-range power loss while it's revving up. So like 5,000 RPM, 4,000 RPM, right around there, it kind of dies out. With the big turbo on it, has changed 100%. Handling-wise, I did lower it as well. I forgot to mention that it is lowered as well, so it has spiced it up a lot. I went through the mountains a couple weeks ago, and it was just such a blast to drive. drive. Big change doing it. This is the way the car should have came from the factory.
Yeah, it looks good, and I'm just amazed. Any plans for any more upgrades at all?
Yeah, actually, I got a new hood and front bumper on the way right now. I'm waiting for it to show up, so it's going to be similar front end to what the GT 350 has. Similar, a little bit different, but has similar look. And then I have something that's going to have about a heat exchanger out of the top of the hood, just to get rid of some of the heat, because with the new turbo it gets hot.
I was going to say, I imagine that. Is there any kind of gauges or anything like that that I see on? Have you added anything on the inside?
Well, there's a tune axis port inside on the windshield there, and that basically gives me all the readings for engine knock, advancements, anything I need to read for any important stuff. The performance pack also comes with an oil pressure gauge on the center console, and it has a boost gauge in there as well. But
so what would be the maximum boost now?
Right now it's running just under 30 pounds of boost. So
versus a factory of?
The factory is 18 pounds.
What a difference.
Yeah,
wow. Yeah. Wow. That's great. Well, thank you very much for bringing it out.
Pleasure.
You bet.
Thanks.
We've got a really, really unique car, and Steve's going to tell us a little bit about it. It's a 1968 Cougar 427 GTE. And Steve, I'm going to actually hand you the mic. Take it away.
Thanks, Darren. Yes, this is a 1968 Mercury Cougar GTE. The GTE was a specific model of the Mercury Cougar. It could be had in XR7 version or the standard. What makes it unique is the GTE package came originally only with a 427 side oiler. It was the last time that Ford used the 427 side oiler in any vehicle. This was the only vehicle you could get from Ford Lincoln Mercury in 1968 that had the 427. There were 354 of them made with the 427 side oiler, and the last 38 had to be finished with 428 Cobra Jets because they ran out of motors for the 427 side oiler. So as we can tell, this is an original matching numbers car from end to end. This has the correct engine, transmission, drivetrain, and rear end. The wheels are the original style steel wheels from 1968, and there are 5 of them. This was the first car from Ford Lincoln Mercury that came standard with FR70 14 radials. This was the first car that came only with radial tires. You could have Cougars with regular bias ply tires, but this came only with FR70 14 radials. And you could get red line tires on this. Only 2 were delivered that way. Most of them are delivered with the white wall tires. The GTE package costs an extra $1,300 over the regular XR7. So this car stickered out at over $6,000, which made it more expensive than any other car except for a Lincoln Continental from Ford Lincoln Mercury. This car has a restored interior, which is leather, but everything else in the car has been kept original. It was repainted in 1992, and it has its original trim from end to end. The car was recently purchased from the West Coast, and the paint was freshened up by Mercenary Auto Care here in Regina. Transmission needed to be set, and that was done by Trent at Jerry's Transmission in Regina, Saskatchewan. So the folks at Elite aligned the hood and trunk, and Elite Auto Body here in Regina. So this is sort of a collective effort to get it up to the point where we have a nice, reliable, and powerful driver, a daily driver, Darren.
Fantastic, absolutely. Now I know you've shared a little bit of the history of the car. There was how many total of owners?
We are the 9th owners of this car, only 1 of whom was an American, and only 3 of us didn't live on Vancouver Island. So this is, yeah, it went from family to family.
Exactly, that's kind of interesting. The part I guess I'm most interested in, and I know you and I have talked about it as well earlier, the low number of production and the idea that Ford actually make, in this case here, Lincoln and Mercury made such a rare car. Any idea why they made a car like this?
Yes, I have a pretty good idea. There's a book that was put out recently by the Cougar Club of America that addressed the history of the GTE. This car was supposed to be the first of the XR7S's, XR7 Shelbys. But when Shelby American's deal with Ford Motor Company went sideways in 1968, following the end of 67 and the horrific losses that they had, the plan to make XR7S's and finish them at Shelby American, or A.O. Smith, as we all know, kind of fell through. So 2 of the XR7S's were made, and one of which was given to Henry Ford II. and that is the only car that exists on those lines today. So this car is part of an attempt to involve Shelby American in the Cougar story, because Cougar was the luxury performance division of Ford Lincoln Mercury.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I know at the A.O. Smith plant is where they built the sunroof Cougars, and obviously they built the 68 Shelbys there as well, and then later the 69, and then did a little bit of work on the 70s. That's tremendous. I guess I've seen a few of these over the years, and every time I see them, I'm always just amazed that Ford went to the lengths that they did and made such a unique car. I mean, a lot of other brands, General Motors being one of them, most of their cars are kind of commodities, not a lot of variants, and Ford, unbelievable amount of difference in such a small amount of production. That's great. Thanks very much, Steve.
Thanks, Darren.
Hi, we're here this afternoon with Fred Wagner, who's got arguably one of the nicest cars at the show, 1965 Mustang, and what's kind of unique about it, it's called a Hypo, or a High Performance 289. Very, very low production. Made them for a very short period of time as well. It's kind of unique. In the early years, only available in a 4-speed, and it was kind of an engine that they had pulled from their Cobra line and some of the early Fairlanes. So I'm going to hand the mic to Fred, who's going to do a little bit of walk around, and Fred's actually got 2 Mustangs here. One is the big one, and then one's a real small version. So here we go, Fred. Take it away.
Okay. Well, I bought the car 21 years ago out of Texas from a guy that was 80 years old, and he'd owned it 30 years, and I'm working on having my 30 years of it. It's only been 21 so far. I completely restored the car. It was a good, solid, almost rust-free car. So paint job is about 18 years old on it now. I do drive it lots. In about the 21 years that I've owned it, I've put about 100,000 miles on it. I've been all the way out to Vancouver, to Spokane, Washington, to Winnipeg, and keep going everywhere. It is a rare package engine. It's got what Darren was saying, it's the 289 high performance. So it's called a K code. It's got a 289 solid lifter cam. It's 271 horse. It's one step down from what the Carroll Shelby took this same exact engine package, and they actually stepped it up with tri-Y headers, a large high-rise intake, and a larger carburetor, and they got 306 horsepower. So it's just a little bit of a sleeper for what it looks like. It would have come factory with the dual red line tires, and it does have. I've tried to restore everything on the car to keep it as stock as possible in appearances. So, and then a few years after buying the '65 Mustang, I managed to be down in the States and one of the anniversaries of the Mustang, and I bought this red pedal car, and it was in red in color, but not this red. And my oldest daughter took an auto body course, so she took it to the class and proceeded to take all the dents out of it and spruce it up and repainted it to match the big one. And we call it Little Red, that one. And I've done a few extra details on it to make it match with the dual red line tires and the license plates and the details. So what else am I missing that I can tell you about?
Where'd you find Little Red?
Little Red, was it Charlotte, North Carolina?
We were in Nashville,
Tennessee. That's where it was. Yeah, I found it at a swap meet. So, yeah, we strapped it to the top of our little Dodge Murano or Pacifica. So we trailed it all the way back. It had a roof rack ride, so all the way back, and so it's an original '65 pedal car. Yeah, the color is Rangoon red, and. Yeah, and I've simulated the dual red line tires. I think I mentioned that already. And it would have come originally with hubcaps, but I've opted for the style steel wheels. And just a few small things that I've felt would make it more appealing, but not changing it in anything from what could have been a stock option when it was new. So, and I added in this wind deflector. You might have noticed it in the picture. It's something that they're just starting to make a couple of years ago, and it is fantastic for driving in a convertible because it stops the wind from coming around and getting you. So you roll the windows up and have that on, and it's just amazing. It's like having the car closed right up. And for the amount of driving I do with the car, I find it a real blessing. So.
Well, thanks very much, Fred. A tremendous car, absolutely. here with Bob Spinks today, who has arguably one of the most unique cars that you will ever see, and a Hudson, something that they haven't made in 50 plus years. So I'm going to hand the mic off to Bob, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his car.
Thanks. Yeah, I picked this up about 3 years ago from some people out in White City. Spent a lot of time and money in the garage putting it together. Never seen another one for all the car shows that I've been to and traveled around and stuff like that. People say that I think I've got the only one that's actually up and driving and moving around.
Well, there's something to be said for that. Tell me a little bit. Honestly, I don't know anything about the engine, transmission, or anything like that. What do we got?
Well, it's a 212 cubic inch. It's a 6-cylinder, so a straight 6. 3 in the tree, all original, everything like that. So
what kind of power back in the day would have had produced?
I think around 70 or 80 horsepower. It's not a rocket by any means.
No, I mean by modern standards, I guess, right? And then production, how long would they have made this particular car in this style? Because this is really unique.
As far as I know, I think it was about 3 or 4 years in production until they went to, they call it a bathtub, which was kind of like a drop down when you got into the 50s, like 51, 52.
Gotcha. And when did Hudson, do you know when Hudson actually stopped as a manufacturer?
Mid-50s, I want to say.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. And then I guess production, any idea how many they would have made like this?
I've got it written on a board in my trunk. I think about 20,000, give or take.
Well, that isn't very many.
No.
And then being in a two-door, especially like this era, so many of them were sedans.
Well, and the two-door actually came, this is called a club coupe, so it actually has a back seat. They actually made a two-door that has no back seat, just the trunk.
Like a businessman's coupe, I guess.
Correct, yeah.
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 Yeah, that's really unique. Now, is the color original? I assume it is?
It's very close, yeah. The paint is actually 40 years old on it. It was painted 40
Really?
years ago.
Looks great.
And the people put it in their barn and never touched it.
Yeah, that looks great. And the tires are original style tires, I see?
Yeah, I picked those up outside Edmonton, like a Coker dealer tire.
Sure. Yeah, actually, and it adds to the look versus, say a modern radial. It gives it that proper period look.
Well, it does. Unfortunately, the bias-ply doesn't handle our roads.
Yeah, road's very good. It always
floats quite a bit.
It always amazes me. I've got them on a few of my cars, and it always amazes me how that's the way everybody drove, and you didn't know any different.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, no, it's hang on to the steering wheel at anything above 50.
Exactly, and then you drive cars today, and you think, how did they drive back then?
Yeah, no, at 50 miles an hour, you're flying in this, whereas 50 miles an hour in a modern car, you're barely moving.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for bringing it up, Bob.
No, thank you.
We're with Floyd Young today, and this is, help me, Floyd, what year is this?
A 1928 Model A.
1928 Model A. And Ford had built a Model T to this point, and the Model A was actually the successor, and a tremendous success. So I'm going to hand the mic over, and Floyd's going to tell us a little bit about his car.
This car, we had to go down to the States to Fort Lauderdale to get it at an auction.
We contacted Lori from Provincial. Lori from Provincial Auto Body because Mom and Dad were looking for a 1928, and I'd actually been looking for about 8 months to a year because they wanted this car for their 50th anniversary, and he pointed me in the direction of Auctions America, which is a Canadian company, and Bear Jackson. So I ended up phoning down there, and they had one. So we flew down to Fort Lauderdale to the auction there, and that's where we went to the auction for Mom and Dad, and we went there and we bought the car. It took a while to get it here, because by the time they took it from Florida, then they was just outside Detroit, and it sat there for a while. Then it had to wait to pass inspections and stuff to come to Canada, and then when it got to Canada, then they finally got it here. So it took, how many months would you say?
3.
About 3 months to get the car from
Tell
there
us a
back.
little bit about the engine.
Well, I know at one time they wanted to make it easy for people to be able to work on their own vehicles, like a lot of like the tractors had the same type of motor, so if a person could work on their tractor, they could work on their car as well. So it made it a lot easier, and everything was easy to get to. So.
And what size is that engine?
Oh, I'm trying to think now.
It's
I
a
can't.
4-cylinder, correct?
It's a 4-cylinder, yeah.
40 horsepower.
Yeah, it's something like that. But this thing.
And what's this body style called? This is a runabout?
This is actually the.
Cabriolet?
No, Cabriolet was the Chev. This is the Ford Roadster.
Ford Roadster.
Because there was a Tour in that, but A lot
Any
of.
idea how many they would have made in 1928
Oh
like this?
God, I looked it up, but I couldn't remember now. But I know a lot of the rum runners and people that did moonshiners would use this because it was one of the fastest cars that was around. So it was faster than what the police had, so it was easy for them to get away. But it was yeah.
You've heard the famous story with Bonnie and Clyde, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, where he wrote Henry Ford first a letter saying, "Thank you very much, Mr. Ford, for building such a fast car."
But he had the fastest.
I'll only steal Ford V8s.
Yeah, because like I said, they were the fastest cars at the time. So, and like I said, it's hard to find these. Everybody makes hot rods out of them or whatever, which I like those too. But it's nice to have something that's all original. Yeah.
So did you guys just get the car then this year?
No, about 2.5 years.
Oh, okay. So about 2.5 years ago?
Yeah. We enjoy the car.
Absolutely.
It's lots of fun.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah. We're trying to keep it all original. We don't want to change anything.
Good idea.
You know? We brought it back. We put new plugs in it, new tires on it, fixed all the oil leaks.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it's just the way it was.
Well, they say an oil leak isn't a problem until it stops, right? Well, I really like it. So in the back, the rumble seat, I guess, that would have been stock, and then that's sort of, I guess, the trunk or the accessory on the back. Yeah. Now, is this an original color?
No, they repainted this, the owners, because I happened to meet the owners in Fort Lauderdale, and they had painted in 1973.
Okay. Would have been painted back to the original color, do you think?
I'm not sure, but it was the colors they had picked at that time, so I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
I didn't get much time to spend with them, but because they were selling the car, but yeah.
I understand.
I asked them why they were selling it, and they said, well, we don't use it as much. They were older, a lot older, so.
Sure.
Yeah. But
Well,
no, it's
that's a great car. Well, thank you very much for bringing it out. Hi, we're here with Don Brailsford with arguably one of the neatest packages you're going to see rolling down the highway. It's a 1958 Chevrolet and a what year camper, Don?
This is a 1975 Triple E Honey.
1973 Triple E Honey. 75, pardon me. So I'm going to hand the mic over, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the Chevy. He's going to tell us a little about the Honeybee.
Okay, we'll start with the trailer here because we're promoting Bolorama. My wife and I sponsor Bolorama. We have for the last 5 years now in Saskatchewan. It was in Alberta. We brought it here. And this year we're at Watrous again. There is 65 trailers registered so far for this coming weekend. We're up there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the third weekend in August, we're putting on another one in Winnipeg with 1,000 trailers. We're anticipating right now there's 600 registered. And it's just for fiberglass trailers. So we've dragged this trailer around here now for 25 years. Probably got 300,000 miles on it. It works great. Sleeps 3, fully contained. You have everything in it. You can pull them with a Volkswagen. And my wife and I took this to Arizona 10 years ago with this old car, and we lived in this camper for 3 months, January, February, and March, for 2 years in a row. Okay? And you notice there's all kinds of room in there. And this car here is a 58 Bel Air. I've had it for 46 years. I bought it in 1972. When I bought it, it had 200 and some thousand miles on it. And over the last 40 years, I've turned the speedometer over 8 times. So there's over 1 million miles on this car. This is my 4th motor I put in it. We've raised kids in this. The daily driver for years and years and years, winter and summer. Raised 2 kids in here and 7 grandkids. All eat ice cream in the front seat and the back seat. And you can't hurt these, they're indestructible. It's got the original motor is a 283. You want to look at the motor in it? And like I said, this is a 4th motor we put in this. We just literally wear them out. It's a 2-barrel 283. I get over 20 miles per gallon with it. I have to get 20 because we just put too many miles on this car. We can't afford $2, $1.68 a liter for gas or whatever we're paying now. I don't know. Anyway, it's a driver. It's got lots of miles and it's got lots of stone chips on it. We've done the body work on it twice and it's starting to use a little bit more body work. It needs a little rust coming through. But it pulls that trailer fine. We take it everywhere. And you consider $100 a night for a hotel room, it just pays for itself.
Hi, this is Darren Beasley. Thank you very much for watching Cruising on 7 today. I'm sure Bob will be back next week, because after watching today, he'll say, I can't ever let that guy get the camera again because I'll never get it back. Proceeds today are going to JDRF. Thank you for everybody that brought their car out. And as I mentioned, thank you everybody for watching. We'll catch you next time.
Cruising on 7, brought to you by Auto Gallery Subaru, located at 609 Winnipeg Street, has an excellent selection of premium pre-owned vehicles for every budget, featuring Subaru's legendary and award-winning all-wheel drive. Auto Gallery Subaru will make your experience one to remember.